Thanks for joining us today on Cece and Doc Talk, where we talk about everything under the sun. You never know quite what you're going to get, but you'll always be entertained. Welcome to today's podcast. We have the privilege of working with a Reiki master by the name of Shakara, whom we absolutely adore. And we just got done doing a session together, which we sometimes do. And she took us on a shamanic journey, which we had not done before. And it was so powerful, we decided to share our experience with you. And it was interesting because we were sitting next to one another, and yet our experiences were very different. So we thought that as a way to just share kind of the power of Reiki and some of these other sort of more metaphysical type healing and energy work methodologies, that we would share our experience with you. And I know it's so funny because our last podcast was a little more serious and about the road to retirement, but then this also gives you a little glimpse into our spiritual lives as well. So
I think what I found most fascinating is when she opened it up and she talks about how we operate at this high frequency. And then to be able to do this, we need to find a way to bring our frequency down into this journey and into a lower frequency. And I'm not sure what all that means, but I'm just saying, repeating what. And so it needed us to be able to go on a mental journey, on a visualization that brought us into caves and underwater even. And so down into the earth.
Yes, down into Gaia.
And so that was interesting.
So she said, what as humans, we tend to operate in the middle layer. And she was coming at this from the shamanic perspective. There's the middle layer where we operate most of the time. And it actually is a lower frequency than the higher layer. And of course, to be a sentient being, you know, the idea is to get the higher and higher frequencies, but we operate in that middle layer. But in that middle layer is where we can connect with things like totems and our spirit guides, etc. And those things come in. But she said in order to do this shamanic journey, she took us to the lower layer, which was down into Mother Earth, to Gaia. And this would allow us to truly connect with our totems. And by totems, I mean the animal spirits that exist for us and bring us animal medicine and show us different healing aspects and signs and tell us where to go and give us sort of intuition about where to go with our lives and help us to address challenges in our lives. And while I know that this has become a sensitive topic over the years because it to some people may seem like appropriation, I will share that for Doc and myself, we have always been very in touch with spirit and its incarnation in animal form.
We have lots of spirits and spirit, not only spirit animals and totems, but also a lot of angels that have showed up in our world and are very very present in our world. And
right.
So
we have a very very varied spiritual approach, and so our goal is not to appropriate anything. It's really just to share our experience. And again, it's the world according to Cece
All right,
and
enough
Doc.
qualifiers. Let's go on this journey.
It's the world according to Cece and Doc. So certainly take what you'd like and leave the rest. So anyway,
all right. No, I want you to go first.
Your journey. I think yours is so fascinating.
Yours.
Okay.
You get to go first.
So
Cece, what's your journey?
We had to choose at least a scene in common so that we were both traveling in the same journey, in the same realm, in the same space. So she originally asked us to choose something from our childhood that we could at least have some connection with, but we had a little bit of a harder time with that. So then instead we chose an experience that we had in Hawaii and Maui several years ago, where we were snorkeling and we came upon a very large sea turtle, and it was near some rocks and outcroppings, and I was able to dive down deeply and just swim very peacefully next to this turtle, and just sort of commune with it in the space. And Amy was flippering to catch up and and filming.
I have little flippers
and filming the experience.
And at the very bottom of this rock wall, there was a monster leatherback turtle. Yeah. And but we ended up swimming with the sea turtles that were floating right up closer past us. But they were still pretty far down. You could go down quite a ways.
Back then, I definitely could. So that was how our experience started. So she guided us on this journey, and basically we enter the water. And so initially I entered the water by myself, and then what I realized very quickly was that Amy was next to me because that's how we operate. And even when we used to snorkel, we always used to stay connected to one another, because in Hawaii the currents can be quite strong, and so we always wanted to make sure that one of us knew where the other one was. So we were sort of connected to one another, and as we went deeper and deeper into the water, being led by the turtle, I immediately realized that we had become mermaids. So I had this amazingly beautiful iridescent tail of greens and purples and blues, and then you had this amazingly beautiful iridescent tail that was reds and oranges and yellows, which is sort of your fiery essence. And so we go down, 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 and we're literally descending into the depths, way down into the depths, and where there is darkness, and there was a series of caves, and you go through this hole, and then she asked us to visualize what animals were showing up, and it was interesting because in the past I've had a lot of connection with more of the sea animals, and so they were all present, including a few I wasn't expecting. So one was the turtle, and then of course the dolphin came, because that's always been sort of my one that I'm really connected with. But then all of a sudden a killer whale showed up, which always belongs to my mom, so that was so fascinating. And then a manta ray showed up, because we've swam with them before and they were so majestic and beautiful. And then I think my logical brain kicked in for a moment, because I thought, well, I can't bring in my land animals because they're on land and they can't come underwater. And then I realized, no, I'm in this realm and anything can be possible here. And so the coyote showed up, which is often my father's way of letting us know that he's present, and he has been very present lately for a couple of different reasons. But so the coyote showed up, and then the raven showed up, and then one of my very big connections in spirit is the owl. And so the owl showed up. And then, believe it or not, there were mice, and a fox came, because we often have a fox here at the house. So there's lots of stuff I'm bringing in from our current world, and we were all just sort of there. And then Shakara started drumming, and she was bringing in other sounds. And I realized then at one point Shakara appeared in the vision as well, and her tail was lavender and this incredibly beautiful iridescent that the light was bouncing off of the water, even though there wasn't much light down there. But I did very much feel the moonlight sort of guiding us. And then we all just sort of got in a circle, and we're just sort of swaying. It was very much a kumbaya moment, if you will. And we were just sort of swaying together, and it was so lovely. And then I realized that all of a sudden my dad came, and then my grandmother was there, and then Amy's sister, who's passed over, was there. And they came because they knew we were dancing and they wanted to dance. And so then it became sort of this really very cool, powerful dancing circle. And so that was my experience. And then as she brought us back to the shore, we swam back, and again the turtle guided us out, and as we got closer to shore, our tails disappeared, and we exited the water. And then there was a lot of very beautiful breathing and connecting and working with the chakras. And then I just felt like amazing peace. And this hasn't been the most peaceful week for us. We had a family member who had a medical emergency, and so there was just a whole lot happening this week. So it was just so powerful and calming. I love the way that I feel after a session with her. So that was mine. What was yours? Yours was so different.
It's so different, but thank you. It was a lovely experience that you just showed.
Thank you. It was a lovely experience. I'm still having the afterglow here.
Yeah, and I like our nice iridescent tails that we have as mermaids. I know, how exciting is that?
We were mermaids.
So, well, as I entered the water with you, and we were with this turtle, and the turtle starts to take us on our journey. I had to become comfortable with breathing underwater, so I decided I could scuba. I don't really scuba, but I was scubaing today, and I was able to breathe, but not breathing deeply because I didn't want to use up all my oxygen. So But then I was going on the tunnel, through the tunnel with the turtle, and I was calm, even though I probably wouldn't be in a tunnel underwater, but I was calm. And then we kept swimming, and I could see at the end of this tunnel was a very bright, like orangish, purple, red, like you'd see on a brilliant sunset sky, coming out this maybe star-shaped end of this tunnel. And all of a sudden, we popped out the end of the tunnel. The turtle was gone, and all of a sudden, I was in like a Walt Disney's scene of just this magnificent kingdom that you would see almost from a aerial view, but not quite aerial view. It reminded me of what, like the Disney film Encanto. And then also like Avatar. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I'm in this like beautiful, majestical place. And at that moment, she said, we had to state our intention. And right now I'm trying to figure out what are my intentions. And so just this morning, I really decided that my intention is just to be that free spirit.
Right.
I think my free spirit has become a little bit more subdued over the years as I learned to be more politically correct.
You had your light under a bushel.
Yeah.
In the corporate world.
So I just want my spirit to soar. So I immediately turned into the hawk that I resonate with. And next thing you know is I was on a journey. I was all over the place, and my hawk could fly quickly. So I was flying all over the place. I had visual views, and
you said you went to Alaska.
And next thing you know is I was up over Alaska and up there, kind of seeing some of the places that we had been up there. And then I was over in Tuscany, and all of a sudden I sat down on a pole in Tuscany, and I just felt my heart go at peace there. And so I'm like, Tuscany, interesting. Over the wine country and just sitting and enjoying it. It wasn't about the wine. It was just about the calm and the beauty and the vistas and stuff. The view.
We do have friends who have a place there who have that experience. So interesting.
Yeah. And it wasn't like the Oregon wine country. This was definitely Tuscany. And then she said, and then I went to this other place. And I could feel, it was interesting, right at that time, it wasn't a gravitational pull, but it was more of a current in the water pull. And there was this cave area, and on that other side was my work world. And I realized that, it was very active, very vibrant, it was a beautiful place, but there was this current, and I didn't want to go through that door. So there was this big door, like something you would see on a treasure chest or treasure island or something like that, this big thick door, like a stone or like a bank vault or a store. It was curved on the top, so it was kind of medieval. And I just, as I was in my hawk shape, I just took my wing and closed the door, boonk, and it had this metal on the outside. And then I just sat there and I gave a lot of thanks. And so it wasn't just like closing it out of my world, but I didn't want the gravitational pull anymore. And I was just done. I was just done with that environment, that world. And so I sat there and gave it a lot of thanks. And I had the gratitude and very appreciative. And so it was a pleasant experience, but it was also a lovely experience to just kind of close the door. And then my hawk then came all the way back to right into our current property area and just sat down on a pole, and it was eating a mouse. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, and then what that represented to me was to not worry about finances as I step away from that environment, because there's plenty of mice. There will be enough. There's plenty of food on the table. There will be enough resources available when needed, even when it's snowy and cold and they don't appear to be available. And then she said the turtle was going to show up and bring us back up the tunnel and back on our journey back to a different frequency. And so my hawk had to go back down into the little jungle area and then connect with the turtle and come back up the tunnel. And as I was coming out of the water, I turned and looked back, and there was a humpback whale waving its fin at us out of the water, saying bye-bye. You're welcome back here anytime. And then the turtle, as we left, waved to us and said, bye, that was fun. Thanks, come back anytime. And then we were back on shore. So there you have it. I was busy. I was active.
You were definitely busy.
I was all over the place.
And, and so one of the things that she asked us to do after after we did this was to either, talk through or journal about this experience. And we decided, well, we might as well turn it into a podcast if we're going to have the conversation anyway. And she asked us to really sit with it for a bit to see if any questions arose or if anything came up for us that we needed clarification on. And she allowed us the opportunity to go back to her with any of those questions where she might provide clarity or any thoughts around, trying to make a meaning of some of it. So like right now, I don't know that we're actually jumping to a lot of conclusions from it.
Do you have any that you want to at least, the initial thing, just observation of it, this is the first time you talk through it. Any initial
It's funny because I think you might have drawn more conclusions from yours. I'm still sort of really, really noodling over mine and sort of just kind of sitting with it. I mean, so many different animals came in and there wasn't really conversation. There was a lot of energy transfer, but not a lot of conversation and not a lot of anything except for the sort of swaying and the movement and being in each other's presence. So I don't know what to bring from that, except that, my goal, because we have to set our intention beforehand, was inner peace. And that's kind of what I've been working on since my diagnosis. And so I did come out of it feeling very peaceful, but I do think there will be some questions. And of course, as we've seen lately, we've had a lot of animal presence here lately, really trying to send us messages. And so maybe, there's a piece of that to it. I don't know. Did you, you, I think, drew more maybe conclusions in yours.
Well, and with, at the expense of making this longer, I'll try to keep it short. I think some of the obvious, right? Putting closure to my other world that I've just kind of closed the door on and walked away from. And it was a wonderful place to be for so many years, but it's a choice. I'm not going to stay over there right now. And then the new world, I was able to go past, present, and future. I was able to go places where we've been, Alaska and these beautiful places, and see them from that aerial view and give thanks and gratitude to them. And then also it's like, okay, there's more adventure out there for us. And I know that you and I are not necessarily jumping on airplanes and doing international travel right now for a variety of reasons.
Right.
But just to give myself the freedom and the knowledge to know that they can be in our future.
Right.
And the doors to the future are endless still. And to be able to see you traveling to faraway places in the future was a comforting thing.
Right.
And then also you showed up, I didn't mention this, as the owl. You didn't want to be the hawk. You're like, no, we're not the same, we're different.
Well, the owl is my thing.
And the owl is your thing, and you are a night owl. But the interesting thing is you were looking for a perch around our current property. It's like, I need a place to perch. And ironically, you had recently asked me if we look into putting up an owl house. So
or three.
So I think that might be sooner on the radar versus later. But I think I was looking for that freedom, that free spirit, and just giving it permission to come out. And I actually feel energized and excited, and just a buzz of life right now that I don't know what I want to do with it. And we might just turn some music on and dance, because in yours you were dancing and it sounds like there was a lot of song and dance in here. So maybe we just might turn some music on and dance.
We may just go to the pool and dance, because, we were in water. So now I feel the need to be in the water. And I think, so if I had any insight at all, I think it's that, at one point, I think we've shared previously, we almost moved to Mexico. We had a condo on the beach there. And since then we have, sold that condo. And since COVID, we have also moved away from the whole, beach, tropical.
We've lived on water for like 18 years,
right?
Whether it was a lake or a river or a private lake, we've lived on water.
We have
near water.
Always lived on water. Well, almost always lived on water together, and we've always been very attached to tropical and beach vacations, etc. But for some reason, in the transition, even before COVID, we were transitioning away from a lot of that. And so, and out here where we are now, we don't have any water except for the pool in the tiki barn, the therapy pool in the tiki barn.
20 steps away.
But hey, it's water. We don't have a lot of water. And so it's interesting because, that I know for some of my family members, they were like, can you make that adjustment? And yet we have integrated so well here, and we've been so peaceful here. And while I know a lot of people who don't live near water then feel the need to be at the water for vacations.
There's snow outside. That represents water.
Yeah, it'll be water eventually. Very cold water. But we haven't felt the need to do any of that. And so if there's any insight I'm gaining, maybe it's very similar to what you said. Like, it's always there if we need it, but right now we don't need it. And we're okay where we're at. And while that was a lovely experience and I got to, play with my sea creatures that I love again, I also really love the land creatures that we get to commune with here. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. And right now I don't need a tropical vacation, but you might need a wine country vacation by the sounds of it in Tuscany. But again, that's a little far off in the future, but it's always good to have things to look forward to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to open the doors to the future there, whatever they might be. So.
Right.
On that note, let's go dance or swim or just enjoy this magical moment that we're experiencing.
I am going to the pool. And if you've never experienced Reiki before, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. You?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Have a blessed day.
Go experience some nature. Thanks for tuning in to Cece and Doc Talk. We'd love for you to follow us on social media at Cece and Doc. That's CCNDOC. And you can visit our website at ccandoc.com. We also take monthly donations to support this broadcast if you're so inclined. We'd love to hear your comments, suggestions, and questions, and we'll do our best to respond. Thanks, and have a fantabulous day.